The night was calm at the outpost. Stars sparkled above the empty desert plains of the outer human colonies. Small lights blinked on the horizon from the few other settlements, but nothing moved nearby. The outpost seemed quiet, almost too quiet. Inside the metal building, a young engineer named Evan was busy repairing a sensor array that had been damaged by a recent storm. He wiped sweat from his brow and muttered to himself as he connected the last wires. "If this thing works, maybe the next patrol will have better data," he said. His voice echoed softly through the empty hall. Evan was a human in his late 20s, with short brown hair and a stubborn expression. He was known for being patient and precise, the kind of person who could fix almost anything. Outside, a strange light appeared in the sky. It was sudden and bright, like a falling star, but it didn't move like a meteor. It hovered for a moment, then dropped toward the desert below. Evan noticed it instantly. "That's not normal," he whispered, setting down his tools. He grabbed his jacket and ran outside. The cold night air bit at his skin, but he barely noticed. The light landed a few kilometers away, and dust rose into the air. Smoke swirled, and there was a loud crash as something hit the ground. Evan ran toward it, his boots leaving marks in the sand. When he arrived, he saw a small craft, unlike anything he had ever seen. It had smooth curves and shone with a faint blue glow. Smoke rose from one side, and sparks flew from a damaged panel. The air smelled strange, like metal and electricity mixed with something else he couldn't name. He approached carefully, looking for signs of life. Suddenly, a hatch opened, and a figure stepped out. She looked human at first, but something was different. Her skin had a faint shimmer, and her eyes were a deep violet color that reflected the starlight. Her hair was silver, falling past her shoulders in soft waves. She wore a suit that seemed alive, changing colors slightly as she moved. Evan froze. "You're alive," he said, unable to hide the surprise in his voice. The woman looked at him and smiled faintly. "Of course," she said in a clear, melodic voice. "I am Lyra. I need your help." Evan's mind raced. "Help? I can fix machines, but I'm not sure what I can do for you." Lyra's smile widened, though her eyes were serious. "I am from an empire far from here. My ship was attacked, and I barely escaped. I need shelter, and I need to hide." Evan blinked. He had heard of alien life, and even of advanced empires, but meeting one face to face was different. He felt a mix of fear and curiosity. "You're far from home," he said. "How did you get here?" She looked at the sky and sighed. "I was on a mission for my people. We study other civilizations. We found humans. Some of us underestimated your kind. Others tried to intervene for reasons I cannot explain. I was caught in the middle, and my ship was damaged." Evan noticed her hands trembling slightly. She was powerful, and yet vulnerable. It was strange to see someone so strong, needing help from a human, on a tiny outpost. He stepped forward cautiously. "Okay," he said. "You can come inside. I can patch you up. It's not much, but it's safe." Lyra nodded and followed him. As they walked back to the outpost, Evan asked, "So, you're saying humans are important?" She laughed softly. It was a delicate, musical sound, but there was a hint of disbelief in it. "Important? You are amusing. Humans are small, weak. You have barely reached space. Surely you exaggerate your strength." Evan smiled faintly. He did not argue. "Maybe, but we survive. We find ways. Even with little, we manage." Inside the outpost, Evan helped Lyra sit on a chair. He worked with calm precision, fixing the damage and removing debris. She watched him silently, still doubtful. "You humans are clever," she said finally. "But clever does not equal strength. You have no armies, no fleets. You have nothing to stand against the galaxy." Evan looked at her calmly. "We do not have much. It is true, but we make up for it with something you cannot see easily: determination, adaptability. We learn, we improvise, we endure." Lyra raised an eyebrow. She laughed again, lightly. "Endurance will not save you if the Empire decides you are a threat. I have seen worlds crushed for less." Evan continued working, ignoring her words. "We do not have an empire. We have each other. That counts for more than you think." As he worked, the outpost's sensors began to beep. A message appeared on the screen. Evan's brow furrowed. "We have visitors," he said. "Not friendly ones." Lyra looked at the screen and frowned. "You cannot fight them," she said. "They are far beyond you. Surrender, and perhaps you will be spared." Evan did not flinch. He grabbed a flashlight and a small rifle from the storage room. He did not plan to attack immediately, but he would be ready. "Maybe. But I will try to protect what I can." Lyra watched him carefully. Her earlier amusement turned into something else. Curiosity, respect, confusion. She could not understand how a human could remain calm in the face of such danger. Her empire would have panicked or surrendered. Outside, the sky darkened as the approaching ships became visible. They were small but fast, clearly scouts or patrols. Evan led Lyra to a safe room below the outpost. He had barely time to barricade the door when the first lights of the enemy craft appeared above. "They are here," he said softly. Lyra peered out a small window. She could see the ships moving in formation, scanning the area. She felt a flicker of fear she had not expected. You cannot hold them off," she said, her voice quiet. Evan smiled faintly. "We will do what we can. Sometimes that is enough." The first sounds of the enemy landing reached the outpost. Small drones moved across the desert, scanning for life. Evan guided Lyra to a corner, handing her a small comm device. "If anything happens, you call for help," he said. "I will try to keep them busy." Lyra nodded, gripping the device tightly. She realized that despite her experience and power, this human had a confidence that was unusual. She had laughed at him before, thinking he overstated his strength. Now, she was not so sure. The drones advanced, their lights sweeping across the outpost. Evan moved quickly, using the building's design to his advantage. He triggered alarms, diverted power to lights that confused the drones, and used his knowledge of the sensors to mislead their scans. Lyra watched, stunned. Humans moved like a single organism, precise and calm. This is clever," she whispered to herself. Evan glanced at her. "You will see more soon," he said. "We survive by thinking, by acting fast, by not giving up. It is simple. It is what humans do." For the first time, Lyra did not laugh. She realized that perhaps she had been wrong about these humans. This one human, in particular, was not exaggerating. He was telling the truth about their strength, their determination. She felt a strange respect forming, something she had never felt for a being she considered small and weak. As the drones approached closer, the outpost seemed ready for a confrontation. Evan had no illusions about the danger. They were vastly outnumbered. Yet he moved with calm precision, guiding every action of the few humans present. Lyra felt her own confidence grow, not in herself, but in the humans. She realized that survival was not always about size, power, or advanced technology. Sometimes, it was about spirit, intelligence, and courage. The night stretched on, the stars watching silently above. Evan and Lyra prepared for what was coming, each learning from the other in unexpected ways. One laughed at first, thinking she understood the situation. Now, the laughter had died, replaced with a quiet realization. Humans were not to be underestimated. And in that quiet moment, Lyra began to see the truth in his words. The galaxy would learn, sooner or later, that the human spirit was stronger than anyone expected. The next morning, the desert was calm again. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky in orange and pink. The enemy ships had retreated during the night, leaving the outpost untouched for now. Evan moved carefully through the halls, checking the systems and making small repairs. The outpost was old, but it had survived worse. Lyra sat on a bench near the main console, watching him work. Her silver hair shone in the morning light. She had spent the night thinking, trying to understand the human she had laughed at before. Evan's calm, precise actions impressed her. He seemed ordinary, but there was a strength she had not expected. "You really are something," she said finally. Evan looked up and smiled faintly. "I just do what I can. It is not special. Humans survive this way. We adapt, we plan, we act." Lyra shook her head. "Adaptation alone does not make you strong. You are lucky I did not meet the full force of the Empire. If they had come, you would be gone." Evan's eyes narrowed. "Maybe, but luck favors preparation, and humans prepare." There was a pause. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, and the outpost seemed isolated. But Evan was not afraid. He had learned to work with limited resources, to think creatively, and to trust his instincts. "So you are telling me your species could survive against stronger enemies, simply by thinking?" she asked. Evan shrugged. "We do not always survive. Sometimes we fail. But we learn. We try again. That is what matters." Lyra looked at him carefully. She wanted to test this idea. Evan shook his head. "We have little. We do not have large fleets. We do not have the power of your empire. But we have each other, and we make the most of it. That counts for more than you think." She laughed softly. It was not mocking this time, just a quiet sound of disbelief. "You sound like you are exaggerating again." Evan smiled. "See for yourself one day." Later, Evan gathered his small team. Clara, Jason, and Leo arrived at the outpost to help repair the systems and prepare for any future attacks. They were skilled humans, ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in action. Clara worked quickly on the communications system, Jason checked the weapons and defenses, and Leo prepared the sensors. Together, they moved like a single unit, efficient and confident. Lyra watched them carefully. She was used to highly trained soldiers and powerful warriors, but these humans impressed her. Each one had limited tools, limited weapons, and yet they worked perfectly together. It was not raw power, it was intelligence, speed, and coordination. "Humans are interesting," she whispered to herself. "I may have judged you too soon." The calm of the morning was broken when the outpost sensors detected a small ship approaching. Evan looked at the screen. The ship was small, fast, and heavily armed. It was likely a scout or an advanced patrol sent by a faction of Lyra's empire. "They are coming," Evan said simply. Lyra's eyes widened. She had assumed humans would run, hide, or surrender. She had expected fear. But Evan was calm. He calmly directed his team to prepare. Clara activated the automated defenses. Jason checked the weapons and positions. Leo adjusted the sensor network. Evan moved between them, giving instructions with calm precision. "They will try to scan us first," Evan explained. "We need to confuse their systems, Make them think the outpost is empty. Then, we wait. For the right moment. Lyra could not believe it. These humans had no fleet, no large weapons, yet they moved like they had faced hundreds of enemies before. She realized that perhaps she had been wrong. Humans were not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and brave. The small ship landed near the outpost. Drones emerged, scanning for life. Evan moved quickly, using the outpost layout to his advantage. He triggered alarms in the wrong areas, creating false signals. Lights flashed in patterns that confused the drones. Lyra followed him, learning quickly. She had power, technology, and experience, yet she could not match their efficiency. Evan's team moved with precision. Every action planned. Every movement meaningful. "This is different," she whispered. "I have never seen anything like this." Evan nodded. "Humans are like that. We survive by thinking, by acting fast, by trusting each other." The drones moved closer, their lights sweeping over the desert. Evan waited for the right moment. Then, with a small device, he sent a pulse that disrupted their sensors. One by one, the drones stopped moving, confused and unable to detect anything. The humans had done it without heavy weapons, without brute force, using only intelligence and preparation. Lyra could not hide her surprise. She had assumed humans were insignificant. Now, she realized that even with limited tools, they could outsmart far stronger opponents. She began to understand what Evan had been telling her. You are not overstating," she said softly. Evan smiled faintly. "We are stronger than we seem, but strength is not always what people expect. Sometimes it is hidden in patience, planning, and courage." The scout ship finally retreated, unable to find any signs of life. The outpost was safe for now. Evan and his team breathed quietly, knowing that the fight could return at any moment. Lyra looked at them with new respect. She had come expecting humans to be weak, fearful, and helpless. Instead, she had seen skill, courage, and intelligence. She felt a strange admiration forming for these beings who could survive against odds that would terrify most civilizations. Maybe humans are more than I thought," she said finally. Evan nodded. "We are, but we do not seek war or conquest. We only survive. We protect, and we endure." The day passed quietly. Evan repaired the sensor array fully. Clara updated the communications network. Jason and Leo strengthened the outpost defenses. Lyra observed everything, learning how humans worked, how they planned, and how they faced danger calmly. As evening fell, she spoke again. "You were right. I laughed at first because I did not believe. I thought you overstated your strength. Now, I see that you may have understated it." Evan smiled. "Humans do not brag. We act. And when we fail, we learn and try again." The stars appeared, shining brightly above the outpost. Lyra looked at them thoughtfully. She had learned something important. Humans were not insignificant. They were resourceful, brave, and clever. They had a spirit that no empire could easily break. "I want to understand more," she said quietly. "Teach me your ways, human. Show me how you survive." Evan nodded. "If you stay, you will learn. It is not always easy, but it is worth it." The night was quiet again. But this time, Lyra did not feel fear. She felt curiosity and respect. She had laughed at humans before, thinking they were weak. Now, she knew better. She had seen their intelligence, their courage, and their spirit. She had learned the truth. Humans were strong in ways that others could not easily measure. As she sat near the console, watching Evan and his team work, she made a decision. She would stay with them. She would learn from them. And she would see how far the human spirit could go when tested by the galaxy. For the first time, Lyra felt something new. Trust. She trusted humans to survive, to act, and to endure. She knew that the universe had underestimated them for too long. She had laughed, at first. Now she understood that she had been wrong. And that realization was only the beginning. The next day, the outpost was quiet. But everyone knew the danger was not gone. Evan moved through the hallways, checking the sensors and systems again. Clara was updating the communications. Jason was inspecting the weapons. And Leo was monitoring the desert outside. They worked quickly, efficiently. But there was a tension in the air. Lyra observed them closely. She had never seen humans operate like this before. Each movement was precise. Each action had purpose. They were not using advanced technology. Yet they were ready for threats far stronger than themselves. She felt a growing admiration, and at the same time, a sense of urgency. They will return, Lyra said quietly. Evan looked at her calmly. We know. We will be ready. We do not have fleets or armies, but we have strategy, and we have each other. That is enough for now. Lyra shook her head. Enough? Against your empire? Enough is never enough. Evan smiled faintly. Maybe. But enough to survive, to resist, is more than most expect. Outside, the wind picked up, kicking up sand across the desert. The outpost was small, but it had natural defenses. Hills on one side, rocks scattered around, and a network of sensors hidden among the terrain. Evan had mapped everything carefully. He moved quickly to assign positions for his team. Clara, stay here and monitor communications. Jason, you cover the south ridge. Leo, sensors and perimeter. Lyra, you will help with strategy. We move as one. No panic, no hesitation. Lyra blinked. She had never been given orders like this before. In her empire, commanders were respected, and soldiers followed them without question. Here, humans trusted each other, but they worked together as equals. She realized there was strength in this kind of teamwork. Hours passed. The enemy finally appeared on the horizon. A fleet of small, fast ships, far more than the scouts, approached the outpost. Their weapons glinted in the sunlight. Evan's team was ready. They did not have heavy weapons, but they had prepared traps, sensor interference, and clever tactics. They will try to scan first, Evan said. We make them see what we want them to see. When they land, we act. The fleet descended, and drones began spreading across the desert. Evan moved calmly among his team, checking positions. Jason adjusted the automated turrets. Clara sent false signals through the communication network, and Leo triggered decoy sensors to confuse the enemies. Lyra watched, impressed by their coordination. Humans are unpredictable, she whispered, and dangerous, in ways I did not understand. As the first wave of drones reached the outpost, Evan activated hidden traps. Wires and sensors triggered small explosions and nets that immobilized the drones. The enemy tried to respond with their own technology, but the humans had already anticipated it. They moved in patterns, never in straight lines, using the terrain and outpost layout to their advantage. Lyra was amazed. She had never seen such efficiency. Humans with limited technology were outsmarting advanced drones. She felt a flicker of fear and respect at the same time. This should not be possible, she muttered. Evan glanced at her. It is possible. Humans survive by adapting. We think faster, act faster, and trust each other. That is our strength. The first drones were destroyed or disabled. The main enemy ships hesitated, scanning the area, trying to understand what had happened. Evan saw his chance. He directed Jason and Leo to use small but precise attacks to damage the ship's systems. Small charges and electromagnetic pulses caused confusion and panic among the enemy fleet. Lyra's eyes widened. "They are human," she whispered again. "They are actually fighting back." Evan nodded. "We do more than fight. We survive. And sometimes survival is victory enough." The enemy, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, sent more troops. This time, armored soldiers landed near the outpost. They moved quickly, confident that humans would flee. Evan, however, had anticipated this. He had created hidden passages and traps around the outpost. His team moved silently, striking with precision. Lyra joined him, using her experience and power to support their tactics. She realized that she was learning from them as much as they were learning from her. The humans were not reckless. They were careful, clever, and brave. Each member of the team knew their role and executed it flawlessly. "I did not believe you before," Lyra said quietly to Evan during a brief pause in the fight. "I thought you were exaggerating. Now I see the truth. You are not overstating anything." Evan smiled faintly. "I do not need to. Humans show their strength in action, not words. You are beginning to understand that." The battle continued. The enemy soldiers were skilled and heavily armed, but Evan's team used the terrain, traps, and strategy to their advantage. Small explosions, misdirections, and well-placed attacks disabled the enemy in waves. Lyra moved among them, amazed by their coordination. She had been trained in war her entire life, yet these humans, with far less, were holding their ground. Hours passed. The enemy realized they could not easily win. Their fleet had suffered unexpected damage. Their soldiers were falling into traps, and the humans remained calm. Evan moved like a commander who knew every detail, every weakness, and every strength of his team. He was not overconfident, but he was certain that they could survive. Finally, the enemy began to retreat. Their ships lifted off, leaving the outpost behind. Evan and his team watched carefully, making sure they did not return immediately. Lyra looked at the humans around her. They were tired, sweaty, and dirty, but they were alive. They had survived against impossible odds. She felt a strange pride in them. She had come expecting weakness and fear. Instead, she had seen courage, intelligence, and determination. These humans were not minor beings to be dismissed. They were clever, resilient, and strong in ways that could not be measured by weapons or numbers. "I underestimated you," Lyra admitted quietly. "I laughed at first because I thought you exaggerated. Now I see that humans are remarkable." Evan nodded. "We do not exaggerate. We survive, and we fight when necessary. That is our way. It is simple, but it works." Lyra looked at the desert around them. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the outpost. She realized that the humans had more than courage, they had spirit. They did not rely on overwhelming power. They relied on intelligence, adaptability, and the will to survive. "Teach me more," she said finally. "I want to understand your ways. Show me how humans survive when they have so little." Evan smiled. "If you stay, you will learn. It is not always easy, but it is worth it." As night fell, the outpost was quiet again. The stars shone above, and the humans rested, ready for whatever came next. Lyra sat near the console, reflecting on what she had seen. She had laughed at humans before, thinking they were weak. Now, she knew the truth. They were clever, brave, and strong in ways she had never imagined. For the first time, she felt something new: trust. She trusted these humans to survive, to fight, and to endure. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated them for too long. She had laughed at first, thinking they could not withstand the challenges ahead. Now, she knew better. And that understanding was only the beginning. Evan checked the sensors one last time before heading to rest. The outpost was secure for now, but the threat was not gone. He trusted his team, and he trusted their strategy. Humans were small, yes, but they were clever, adaptable, and determined. And sometimes, that was enough to survive against the impossible. Lyra watched him, feeling respect and curiosity. She had come from a vast empire, trained and powerful, yet here she learned from humans. She realized that survival was not always about power. Sometimes, it was about thinking, adapting, and never giving up. Humans were masters of that art. And in that quiet desert night, she made a decision. She would stay, she would learn, and she would see how far these humans could go. She had laughed at them before, thinking they overstated their strength. Now, she knew the truth. And the truth was more powerful than she could have imagined.